Good morning again. So today I just wanted to bring a short message. I've been going back and forth about this for a few days now, but I feel compelled to do this. I feel as if the Lord wants me to give this message, so I'm going to bring it now. I apologize if I jump all over the place. I'm going to do my best to let the Lord lead this. I don't know that's going to happen entirely because I'm weak and try to take over way too often. But anyway, what I want to talk about is men's mental health. More specifically masculinity, but men's mental health. This is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, which until just a few days ago I was not aware of. If that's not telling in and of itself. Men's mental health is not thought of very often, and not by anybody, not by me either, really. And I don't like these months and weeks or days or whatever that are dedicated to specific groups of people or specific concerns. I really don't. I don't care for that sort of thing. If it's important, it should be thought about all the time. And most people do think about important things all the time. You don't need a month to remember it. You don't need a special week. You don't need a special day. And I want to be careful here. I want to be really careful because mental health has become a very popular topic. But for the wrong reasons, I think. We live in a culture of therapy for everything now, and I don't think that that's right. I don't think that's okay. In fact, I know that it's not right. It's not okay. People are weakening themselves and getting weaker all the time, and they're proud of it. Therapy, I'm not saying there's no need for therapy. I'm not saying there's no need for psychiatric treatment. There are problems that are difficult to deal with. There are chemical imbalances in the brain, that hormonal issues, things of that nature that sometimes need to be dealt with medically and with the treatment of medicine or with the treatment of therapy, some guidance, mental guidance. But I think that those problems are a lot more rare than what people think they are. I think that a lot of times what we actually have are spiritual problems that should not be treated with medication, that don't need to be affirmed. That's another really dangerous thing that's happening with therapy is the affirmation of people's problems. If you affirm something, you're giving it power. You're telling yourself that it's real. You're telling yourself that it's something that has power over you, rather than treating it as something to fight, something to get rid of. The affirmation is not the way to deal with problems. So, to get into this, I want to talk about some of the issues that face men specifically, because as men, we suffer. We suffer a lot. It's not. It, it's not something to be feared. It's not something to be loathed. Our suffering. Our suffering is difficult, but it's a gift. I guess I'll speak directly from my own experience. As a young man, trying to make my way in the world, I experienced a lot of loneliness. Loneliness caused me so much depression. And I'd say depression. I was in a depressed state. Never lasted a real long time, weeks at a time, maybe a month or two at a time. But it just became a fact of life, and I do believe that it is a fact of life for many, many, many people. You experience loneliness, and that's a form of suffering. It's certainly painful to be alone until you strengthen yourself to become used to it, to take comfort in it, to occupy your time in other ways where the loneliness doesn't bother you, or you get these feelings. Well, these feelings come whether lonely or not. So loneliness is its own separate thing, and then of course we have inadequacy, which men feel a lot all throughout their lives, and you're always going to feel as if there's something more that you can be doing. You're always going to feel that there's something that you need to do right now that you need to make time for, and you're struggling to make time for it, and you just feel overwhelmed. Sometimes you can get overwhelmed with it, and you feel inadequate. You feel like you can't do the things that you need to do or that you're supposed to do, and that sort of feeling, that being on the cusp, right at the limit of your capability, that's where growth happens. You should stay there all the time. You should be thankful for being in that place of feeling on the verge of inadequacy. And some things you are going to be inadequate for. That's just a fact of life. You're going to be inadequate for some things sometimes. I mean, of course, there are things like PTSD. Sometimes those are hard. You need support. You need help. Everybody deals with trauma in their life. That's a fact. That's not specific to men. It's something that men deal with a lot, but it's not specific to men. It's part of the human condition. You deal with trauma. There are traumatic experiences. Some of those can be really hard. Some of them can be debilitating. Some of them you need to seek help for. But a lot of times, spiritual help, spiritual guidance, I think, is the appropriate path for that. With regard to suffering, I just want to, I'll read a few verses out of Genesis. Sorry, I know I should have bookmarks in here ready to go so I don't have to flip through. But suffering is part of the human condition. Life is hard. Life is hard. Life is always going to be hard. If it ever gets easy, don't get comfortable, because it's not going to be for long. And that's not something to be upset about. That's something we're always given something to challenge us, something that we can have victory over, and you should be grateful for it. But in Genesis 3, after Adam and Eve committed the first sin and ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, God is explaining to them their punishment and how they will live their lives. And he says to Adam, and unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake, and sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. You have to work for everything that you have. Sorrowing and labor is your calling in life. As a man, you have to work for what you get. And by the sweat of your brow is how you eat. It's how you take care of your family. You will constantly be considering the needs and wants of your family. And your family will seldom consider your needs and wants, but that's okay. That's not their role. Your role is to consider theirs, to make sure that they're taken care of. Before I left the house this morning, yes, I was in a hurry. Yes, I wanted to get out. I wanted to get the morning reading done. I wanted to be able to record this message. But the heat was out. I had to run downstairs. I had to reset the furnace. It took some time. It took me a little while to get the heat going, but I wanted my family to be comfortable and warm in the house, regardless of what my schedule, what I wanted my schedule to be. And in my haste to leave, I didn't put ice in I usually put some ice in my coffee so that I can drink it as I'm driving down the road. I can kind of clear out the throat, the lungs, and get some warm liquid going in there. I forgot to put ice in there, and I took a big swallow of it and burned my mouth and my esophagus, and I was in pain, but that's all right. I'm here. Anyway, the point of that, I got a little off on a tangent there, which I tend to do. But the point of that is you're always going to be considering somebody else, and your needs and wants are often not met, even by yourself. You don't consider your own needs and wants. Not if you're doing the right thing, anyway. So I want to move on to society's view of masculinity. And I think masculinity is really, well, with regard to men's mental health, I think one of the biggest things challenging men's mental health is they are under attack by society. Masculinity is under attack by society. And as a man, doing what you're supposed to do, doing the masculine things, if society is telling you that you are doing the wrong thing, that being what you are naturally supposed to be and what you are naturally built to do is the wrong thing, it's going to cause you psychological anguish. You're not going to, if you listen to them, you are not going to know what to do. You are shamed constantly. You're vilified. Your contributions go unrecognized. and they constantly talk about toxic masculinity, but what they're attacking isn't masculinity. What they're attacking is these weak men who pretend to be masculine, who are just sniveling little boys who don't yet know how to act like a man. There is hope for them. They can grow. Everybody can grow. But you have to be committed to it. You have to be committed to growth, and that's part of masculinity as well. Is constantly being committed to growth and change. But society gets their view of what masculinity is by these weak men who pretend. And the reason that society sees that or hears that is because those weak men are the loudest. That's how they think they can be masculine, is by being the loudest, most aggressive person in the room, and that is not masculinity. It isn't. So if you're one of those guys, cut it out. They try to assert dominance through aggressive behavior rather than by earning respect. Actual masculinity. Actual masculinity represents a lot of different things. It represents structure, strength, wisdom, respect, responsibility, absolute responsibility. We'll talk more about responsibility in a moment, but humility, discernment, leadership, protection. It represents, these are all the traits of what it takes. These are all the requirements of what it takes to build yourself. And after you've built yourself, I mean, you should continue to build yourself constantly. You should constantly be building, working on yourself, becoming a better person. But these are the traits, how you do that. So once you start building yourself, then you can start building your family. And once you've started building your family, then you can start building in your community. You start building your community. Then, as a community, you can start building your society. Everything that we have is because of masculinity. This structure, this pavilion, is built because of masculinity. It's about generating order from nothing, from chaos, from scrambled up natural resources out in the middle of nowhere. It is gathered, it is processed, it is utilized to make shelter, to protect family, society, culture. It's masculinity. So an easy way to tell if what you witness in society, what you're seeing, whether it's masculinity or weakness masquerading as masculinity, is if the effect of the behavior has a destructive result. It's not masculine. Masculinity does not destroy. Masculinity builds. That's it. You build up other people also. Not just yourself, not just your family. You build up other people. You build up the men around you. You enforce masculine standards on your brothers. You generate better people, and they generate growth in you as well. So one of the things I want to talk about is how do you become a more masculine man or a more masculine person. And this holds true with a lot of different things. This holds true with spirituality. This holds true with your job. This holds true with your with anything. With anything. So it's the fake it till you make it mentality. It's really as simple as that. You see a trait in someone else that is working well for them, or you see somebody doing well in their life, and you say, well, this person does this particular thing, and they don't have this stress in their life, so maybe I'll try to emulate that particular thing, and maybe that'll help me lose this particular stress in my life. And so you begin to act like that person. And it works with anything. And you just do it. You do it naturally. You do it subconsciously even. You see a trait that you wish to emulate, so you start to act in a certain way that is how you feel you're emulating that trait. And your life changes. So here's the importance of surrounding yourself with good people and better people than yourself. Surround yourself with people who you want to be, because you're going to be like that person, whether you like it or not. Not in every way, of course. But in important ways, that's for sure. I don't remember the exact saying, but if you surround yourself with, or if you stand in a group of 4 idiots, you'll be the 5th, and if you stand in a group of 4 intelligent people, you'll be the 5th, something like that. But it's true. It's absolutely true. So fake it till you make it. It works. It absolutely works. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about on society's view of what men are, what men should be, and society's really pushing towards the feminization of men. For some reason, masculinity is seen as evil, and femininity is seen as good. And there's nothing wrong with femininity, but it's not masculinity. They're not at odds with one another. They're both absolutely necessary. But masculinity is not evil. Anyway, let's get over to there's a verse I want to read out of, or 2 verses I want to read out of Romans that really, sorry about the wind. And these are very familiar verses. So Romans 12, verses 1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So, if the world is telling you that you are doing the wrong thing, so what? Don't be conformed by the world. You're not here to live for the world. You're here to live for God. You're here to serve God. And you serve God by being masculine. And part of masculinity, another part of that is presenting your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And also, after, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. You should constantly be striving for growth, as I said before, and proving what is acceptable, and presenting your bodies a living sacrifice. And in that vein, another thing I only have a couple more things written down here. So, the presenting your body a living sacrifice is one way to categorize that, or one aspect of that is accepting as much responsibility as you possibly can, and then sprinkling a little bit more responsibility on top of that. The more responsibility you take, the more responsible you become. And the more you grow, that is the fastest way. That is the fastest way to grow. It's the fastest way to acquire masculinity, is take on more and more and more responsibility. That's not to say take on so much that you can't afford yourself any time whatsoever to study the Bible, to work on yourself, but take on as much as you can until it hurts, and then take on a little more. But it's always going to hurt. Let's talk about pain for a moment. Not just psychological pain or emotional pain, but physical pain as well. You will always hurt. I can't think of a day in my life that I haven't hurt in some way or another, physically, mentally, emotionally. There's pain coming from somewhere. That doesn't mean you run out to a therapist and go and talk about it. You can talk about it. You can talk about it to whoever you want, but it's your responsibility. It's your job to get over it, or to get past it, or to get through it. But it's not going anywhere. It's going to be there. It'll meet you when you wake up the next day. But take responsibility for that too. It's yours. So be grateful for it, because it's going to help you to grow. Sometimes you're going to want to talk about it, and that'll help. It'll help sometimes, but that's not where the healing comes from, and that's not where the growth comes from. The growth comes from you taking responsibility for it, making it your own, and allowing it to make you stronger. And there's two things that I consider to be the most important mechanisms for moving past your pain, moving past your problems with your spiritual health, physical health, psychological health. And that is, I guess three things, but the two are the most important in my opinion, and that's gratitude and wisdom. Gratitude is where joy comes from. You can't find joy without it. I'm not talking about happiness, I'm talking about joy. If you are not grateful, you will not feel joy. And if you are not grateful, you will not grow. And if you are not grateful, you will not move past pain. And joy can be found in moving past pain. But gratitude, there's always something to be grateful for. You can be grateful to be here. You can be grateful for the pain for making you stronger. You can be grateful to all of the blessings that you have in your life. You can be grateful for all of the misfortune that you have in your life. It's a choice. It's a choice that you make. And I recommend that you do. Every single situation presents you with a choice. And when given the choice, choose to be grateful. Choose to be grateful in everything, and you will grow. And you will experience joy. And you will move past your psychological anguish, and you will become a healthier and stronger person if you express gratitude. The other, well, there's two others. One is forgiveness, and that's very important too. It's a step towards gratitude. It's a choice, much like gratitude is. It is very difficult in some cases, but forgiveness, and I'm not gonna beat that one to death because it's secondary to this. It's important, but it's secondary. But the next thing is wisdom, and wisdom is not necessarily knowledge. Knowledge can lead, well, no, knowledge can't lead to wisdom, but wisdom can lead to the attainment of knowledge. Some of the wisest people I've ever met are not highly educated people, but they've experienced life, and they have cast aside their own arrogance long enough to gain some understanding, and that's wisdom. And there are so many areas of the Bible that speak about wisdom. Proverbs especially. I mean, just about every chapter in Proverbs speaks of wisdom and the ways that it'll affect your life. I mean, just pick a chapter and you'll find something about wisdom. So part of masculinity is seeking out wisdom. And one of the primary sources, in my opinion, of wisdom, and in the opinion of millions and millions across generations, is the Bible. It is if you open your heart to it, if you cast aside your own arrogance, you will gain wisdom. Living your life is a way to gain wisdom. If you open yourself to the experience of life, you will gain wisdom from it. If you open yourself to the pain that you experience, you will gain wisdom from it. So, all that being said, I think we'll cut it short now. And I say short, I think it's been a while. But we'll end this message here. Do not be ashamed of your masculinity. Do not allow the world to tell you that it is wrong. Use your strength to help people. Take on as much responsibility as possible. Seek wisdom always. And get to work. Get to work being masculine. And your mental health problems will start going away. But do not ever think that you will have an easy life. Because you won't. and you shouldn't. Nobody should. So, be grateful for it. In everything, just express gratitude. Just be grateful. Let's jump over. I think there's one proverb that I would like to read. Sorry, I know I said I was going to wrap this up. All right, in the spirit of choosing gratitude, Proverbs 15 verse 13 says, "A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart is the spirit broken." So, choose to be happy, choose to be grateful, and you will push past sorrow. So, thank you all for joining me. I hope you join me again soon. I love you all. God bless you all. Have a great day. Be grateful today.